Hello and welcome back to the Synapse sessions, helping me explore the wacky world of Azure Synapse Analytics and putting it through its paces. So I know it's a big, exciting week, and Spark 3.0 has been released, and Databricks Runtime 7's out, and there's all sorts of exciting Spark Summit things happening. But that's coming later. We'll have some videos talking about all the new releases and all that kind of stuff later in the week. For now, I want to talk orchestration. And it's a question I've had a lot since I started doing these videos is, great, you can do Spark and stuff, but how do I get data into it? Where does the data come from? And I'll admit, I cheated in the first video. I had a data lake that already had data in it. So we'll have a look at the Data Factory integration. And it is just Data Factory. It looks like Data Factory. You've got pipelines and data sets and linked services, but it's a little confusing because things are in different places than they normally are. So we'll have a bit of a look at how we do that and get you all started and set up. So don't forget to like and subscribe if you like the video, and we'll go from there. Alrighty, so I've got my Synapse workspace, and the eagle-eyed might notice it is a brand spanking new one in that I've spelled Synapse right this time. So I've got nothing set up here. So I've got a lake that's kind of just a blank lake. It's got one folder in it. Nothing in my develop, nothing in my orchestrate. Essentially, I'm starting from scratch. So we had to switch Azure subscription, so we are in a brand new state. So let's see what we can do. So orchestrate is the obvious place to start. I've got my pipelines. I can go in here and click New Pipeline. Don't have data sets. And that's super confusing because you're normally in Data Factory expect to see, here's all my pipelines, here's my data sets that's supporting them. And then down at the bottom, we had connections and triggers. And they're gone as well. But then I've gone in normal Data Factory. So it's all change if you're used to doing Data Factory. So let's get pipeline in. And I get this wacky little window coming from the side saying, what do I want to call it? So it's going to call my copy table. Real simple. And what we're trying to get working is, I want to copy data. Like the most basic of basic ADF example saying, I've got a database, copy it over here. Now we're going to go a little fancier. We're going to make it parameter driven. But that's literally all we're doing for now. It's just saying each time you run, I want to give you a name and a table, and then copy that from a database into my lake. So there's a few things that we need to get that working. So I've got source and sync over here. Go away properties. Don't like that side window that just kind of pops in occasionally, but that's there now anyway. Okay, so I've got source and I've got sync. So where am I getting my data from? Where am I putting my data to? And I've got nothing set up in either of those. I've got no data sets, and my data sets bit has disappeared, so I can't do much there. So we can do the traditional way, or the easy way, which is just do it inside my activity. So my source data set, I want to do one that's not there. I need a new thing, and then that'll pop up and give me a load of stuff. So I can create it that normal traditional way. First, let's look at linked services. We're going to need a new linked service for this source. So where do I do that if I don't have that anymore? Well, that's what this manage tab's about. So I've now got manage as a place where I can do my Spark pools, my Apache Spark pools, my SQL pools, all of my general Synapse config. This is also now where linked services live. So it's linked services are now across the whole of Synapse, not just for Data Factory. But I can go in here and create a new one. So I've got a database, so I can go in, it's a database. So I kind of assume it'd be in a database, but it's not. Azure SQL DB is not classed as a database for some mad reason. So in Azure, I can say I've got an Azure SQL database. So using a database, let's go from there. What do I want to call this? This is my linked service. It's SQL. It's AdventureWorks. And then this is the all-important new button, interactive authoring. So this is the thing saying, as you go through, do you want to be able to test your connections and see what table you connected to and preview data and essentially use Data Factory normally? If so, you have to have this thing turned on. So with this thing turned on, I'll show you what it looks like and then we'll turn it off. So I'm going to grab just some basic server details. I need a subscription. I need my database name, so it's going over there. Going to do SQL auth, be lazy, just some test data. And then I can hit test connection and go, can you connect to my data? There we go. It's hidden a little bit. Test connection successful. So that's fine. If I turn this interactive authoring thing off, give me a warning, then I no longer have that ability. I can't test my connection, which is just a little bit mad. I don't know why give people the option to make it really, really painful to develop. And now that's going to take a little while to turn back on again. Awesome. So I'm going to go and create. That's going to create my linked service for me. And then we can look at creating some data sets on the back of it. Okay, right. So I've got a linked service. That is good. Okay, so where are data sets? They're in data. I mean, that makes sense. It does. It's just really hard to get used to as a data factory person. I spend a lot of time in data factory. This is not second nature to me. This is super confusing. So under data, in my data tab, I can go, I want to connect with external data, which is kind of doing the things where it's creating like additional lakes and attaching things. Or I can do data set, which is a data factory data set. So I want to do a new one based on my SQL database. So it's in Azure. It's an Azure SQL database. Give it a sensible name. This is my data set for VentureWorks. And it's picked up my new linked service. Okay. So now interactive authoring is still turning on from when I just toggled it and switched it back and forth a minute ago. And so I can't see the table names. I can't go and look what I'm connecting to. So it's making me turn this on to be able to do most things. And the thing I don't yet know, does that cost me money? If I'm developing Data Factory, am I paying for the privilege? And that's, I don't like it. To be fair, it's kind of a similar model to what we've got in data flows. So if you're using Data Factory mapping data flows, you have to turn on debug mode. That has a cost because it's a Spark cluster behind it. This isn't a Spark cluster, but I still need to turn interactive authoring on. We'll see what that looks like when we leave preview. Okay, so I don't want to plug it to a specific table anyway, so I'm going to hit edit. This breaks the table name up into 2 parameter boxes, essentially. I'm going to say do that. Leave it as that. Really straightforward. Okay, so I've now got a data set created. Still can't get my table names. And I'm going to parameterize this. I'm going to say, look, I'm going to tell you the schema name, the table name. So 2 inputs, schema name, table name. And that's now expecting that. And then over in my connection, I can say, don't try and read the table because you're not going to be able to until this thing's turned on. I want you to take my 2 parameters of schema name, pass that in as a parameter, and table name. Well, there we go. Interactive authoring has finally turned back on again. Well, that's good. Okay, so now I've got that. I should be able to preview my data. And it's going, well, you've just parameterized it. Tell me what your parameters are. So put these 2 in, 2 very VentureWorksy tables, hit preview, and that should be able to go off, query my thing, and there we go. I've got some test data back. So I now know that's working, and I can't do that unless interactive authoring is turned on, which is a little bit mad for me. Okay, right, so a new data set on the other side. So I've got my database connection. I want to plug it into my lake. So I'm doing an AWS Gen 2 connection. I want it just to write to Parquet. And for me, data sets, AWS, this is going to be my VentureWorks going in as well. It should be generic Parquet. And I'm going to call my local linked service. So I should still be able to browse that. Yeah, okay, so I can see root. I can see it's in there. Again, I don't want to set anything particularly up, so I want to say it's going to be in root. I'm going to put it in raw, but I want to parameterize the directory. Because if I'm going to run it for lots of different tables, I don't want a folder with just all my different data in there because no one does that. And I keep seeing demos of people doing that. That's not how people make lakes. Okay, so one thing to note, because I've hard-coded this, I've told it what the hierarchical namespace file system is, and it's switched this import schema over into from connection. So because I've said, yeah, here's a bit of the file name, it's assumed that it can have a file. It assumes that there's a file there that can go and query and bring back and show me the results. So I need to say, no, there's no file there. It doesn't exist yet. The file will only exist once I've ran this particular job. So don't try and look at the schema. Go off and create it. That's created. Again, my little properties window comes in. And then I want to parameterize this as well. So I want to say, what's my schema name? My table name. And again, doing it the other way around just to make it really awkward when I try and remember that. Okay, so my directory, I want that to be raw, but I want that to be raw and then some other details. So I can do that. So I can say actually what I want it to be raw plus the schema name. And actually, so it kind of malforms that, and then I want that to be the table name. So you can do it as one big thing. I always prefer actually using this syntax. So each of the individual variables you put inside its own little at and braces. This is saying I want to have one big concatenated string, and then in that part of the string, inject a schema name. And then there's a slash, or back to a string again, and then that part inject the table name. It's kind of the same as doing an F string in Python, except my Fs are replaced by @ curly brackets, and then a pointer to some kind of functionality. Okay, so that's real basic. That is my directory name. And file, I'm not going to tell it the file. It can work the file out itself. Okay, so we can tell it that that should be happy. Okay, so we can go back to my table now. Change, let's get involved. So I can name this, so I can copy table to lake. And I can start hooking things up. So I've got my source data set. It's going to be my AdventureWorks database. It knows it's parameterized, so it's automatically brought in my 2 parameters, but I don't have anything for that. I don't know what to pass that in. So we need some parameters on my actual pipeline. So we can give the whole pipeline 2 inputs, then that passes those 2 inputs to each of my data sets. So if I'm clicking back, I've got right down the bottom, which is now, again, playing the little hidey game, got parameters, and then I can give it my 2 parameters. Give it my schema name, give it my table name. And then that's great. That's now my whole thing is expecting 2 parameters, and I can go and hook those up to my 2 different data sets. So table name and schema name are in here. So add dynamic content right down the bottom. Table name, it writes the thing for me, which is great. Then schema name at the bottom, add dynamic content, bring in schema name. Okay, there we go. So that is my source hooked up. It's pointing to my SQL dataset, and it's passing my 2 parameters in. My sync, same thing. So I point at my Parquet Lake dataset. It goes, oh, that's parameterized, so I need to have that too. The schema name in there, table name in there. And that should be everything that we need. So I'll admit, I have done this once before. So let's go and clean up that data just to make sure there's nothing there. So in my data, I can see root. Just go and take my raw folder. Okay, so I've got my one thing that I've done before. Let's delete that. We're going to have a clean lake and nothing in there. Okay, ready to go. So we can go in and do this. Now, earlier, I tried to do this in debug mode. And debug mode, when it didn't have the data sets, it just returned a null pointer. It's like, I don't know what you're talking about. So this only worked for me once I actually deployed it. So I don't know whether that is a case of parameter-driven data sets, or it just needed a linked service to be deployed, or what that was. But essentially, I've now published it, so it's now actually live in my dev area. So I can trigger this and say, I will actually run. So I need to run for sales LT, I need to run for product. And then that'll go off and hopefully do a run. So, okay, so that's running. And then same as Data Factory, over on the side, I've got my monitor tab. So anything that's running properly, I can go and see. And there we go. So I can see there is a pipeline in progress. It's been running for 8 seconds. Go dig in. My parameters. So I've got this little @ sign. So I can go and say what parameters are in there. Brings up a little box. So I know I'm running for sales LT product. And I can dig into here to say what's going on inside. And I've got a few bits. So if I had a big chain of activities, I'd have a line here for each of the activities. And you can click on here to see what the JSON input is. So what have you told it to do? So essentially, you've got a timeout of 2 hours and it's pointing at a database. That's all we know from that. And then really usefully, you've got these 2 little glasses, which is the details box. So if you're doing a copy activity or a Databricks utility, lots of the Data Factory activities have a separate monitoring plane that you can open up. Now, I found this doesn't actually work. So once the thing's actually kicked off, it works fine. But for now, it just doesn't work while this is in a queued state. So I'm assuming if you had a big, long copy, as soon as the copy's actually working, then you can open up and you can see what's going on. While the copy hasn't yet got to the point when it started executing, I can't do anything. I just have to sit here and look at queued. And for me, I mean, minute 19 so far, queuing up, waiting to get some Data Factory resource to do that copy of data, to copy a couple of 100 rows. So that's not particularly great. But again, we're dealing with preview. So it looks like it takes a while currently to actually establish any kind of Data Factory resource. So we're trying to say, just run the thing. It's got like a minute or 2 that it spends kind of sitting and waiting to spin up. I think kind of the one I earlier took about 2 minutes before I actually kicked anything off. So we're just going to wait and see if that works. But then what we should see is a couple of copy details, a couple of things going through. Ooh, there we go. So that's now in progress. And see, I've already had a success come up. So I can say, well, actually, what's going on if I just do one more refresh? Okay, so I've got a succeeded activity now. I've got the output, so I can see what's going on. So I've all my details like number row read, rows copied, all of that stuff. And then these classes now actually give me my monitoring plane. There we go, yeah, so we can see the details there. Total duration, 1 minute 52. Actual in progress, 4 seconds. So it was queuing for nearly 2 minutes, and that took 4 seconds to actually run. But again, it's preview. Normal Data Factory is nowhere near that bad. So I'm assuming that is just a preview thing. But important thing is that is success. So that means that we should be able to go over here, go back to data, have a look in my storage account. So I can go back to my lake. So now where I previously just had nothing, I've now got sales LT, got product, and then I've got sales LT proc. So it's nicely hooked together. That's actually worked. So now I can just run this whenever I want, give it any parameter of any of my different tables, and that'll go through, do a select star from AdventureWorks, and land that into my lake. So we do more advanced things, obviously. We normally do parent wrappers saying, get a list of things, and for each one in this list, go ahead and dump it into my lake. And we'll probably do another video kind of making that extra bit, making it a little bit more fancy. But for now, as a basic way of getting data into your lake, copy activities, parameters, run that thing lots of times, you're generally pretty good. Now, on the other side of orchestration, essentially, you've got copy data to get data in, but then what do you do once it's in? How do you orchestrate stuff? And that seems to be not quite there yet. So we do have Synapse. So we've got kind of this whole new area of things that we can do. And similar to Databricks, we have a notebook activity. So this is if I had some Spark SQL jobs, if I'd set the notebooks that we've done previously, and I want to execute that on a given schedule. So that is currently in there, and you can select a given notebook. Again, I don't have any notebooks created. If I go and quickly create a notebook, give it a name, my notebook, and if I publish that up, okay, so I'm in an awkward point when I can't publish this because I need to delete that, discard that, publish that. That's going to push out my notebook, so my notebook's now deployed. And then if we go back and do that again in Orchestrate, if I've got my new pipeline under Synapse, I should get my list of notebooks. There we go. And that didn't need a linked service, didn't need a dataset, doesn't need anything setting up because it's part of the same workspace. It's already got its own internal linked service. So you can do that kind of thing, but no, I don't have anything else I can do there. So Databricks, I have a lot more examples in my notebook task. I can pick a linked service. When I pick my notebook, I get parameters and I can do dynamic stuff. But that is early days. So kind of that is not a finished product in terms of things. Hopefully by the time they go GA, we should see some different stuff for notebook parameterization and working with it in a more dynamic way. But for now, you can just kick off a notebook. We'll try another one, just see if that actually works. Can set it Spark job definitions if I want to do execute jar file, that kind of thing. And store proc, I'm assuming is actually not, I think that's going to be a SQL pools thing. So that's going to be a SQL data warehouse. There we go. So SQL analytics pool. And that doesn't give me the option of having my SQL On-Demand pool. So store procs that we've currently got in there is especially for the SQL data warehouse style things, the MPP cluster Spark pools. So if you're trying to do that kind of thing, you can do that in here. But I would also assume that you could probably do that via the general execute store proc. So I don't know if there's too much of a difference between those two. Maybe just the thing that they actually pick up. Maybe just the difference between having to have a linked service for it and having something else. In the future videos, when we look at SQL pools, we'll have a deeper look at that and say, how are we actually doing that? Is there anything better we can do? Because it's part of this integral workspace. So yeah, normally that's the kind of thing we'd expect. So you'd have several pipelines, a set of pipelines at the start to get data into your lake, and then a set of pipelines saying, now run a load of jobs, do some processing, enrich my data, curate my data, get it closer and closer to my actual business users. So loads of things that we can do in there that actually brings it up. Okay, so that was a fairly quick overview. That was lightning speed of how you very, very quickly grab data, bring it into a lake, parameterize a pipeline so you can just build one pipeline and then just put different parameters into it and slowly get data into your lake. Now, obviously, it's not fully finished yet. It does still have some preview teething. That whole interactive authoring thing is a mystery to me, but we'll see it getting better. And yeah, we'll dig further into it in future videos. So again, don't forget to like and subscribe if you haven't already. There'll be some videos popping up about some of the previous sessions that we've done. But otherwise, catch us later in the week when we're talking Spark Summit and all of the new announcements and all of the cool stuff that we're seeing from there. Alrighty, see you later.